Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Josh, beer farmer from Beer Farm. 28 and a half and single still. Don't know if there's any ambition to change that, but no, I'm the beer farmer, one of the co-founders of Beer Farm as well. So been there since day dot, and since the brewery still was out in the open, out in the sun. I think you were around in those days, mate. It was
I set up the lab, yeah.
it's definitely come a long way since back in the day, the brewing in the sun. But
Yeah, it's got a roof now.
yeah, we've been going on about 3.5 years. But I think back in the day when we were there, when we were working together, it was probably 5 years ago, just about.
Would be 5 or
Bloody
6,
long
yeah.
time ago. Time flies. You having fun?
What's your favourite beer style, mate?
Well, it's a hard one, I suppose. Probably beers I don't have to think about, to be honest. Which is generally a lager, because there's not too much to it, really. I suppose just nice, clean, easy drinking beer. But I'm a bit of a seasonal drinker myself, mate. It's a bit more of a stouts and big IPAs in winter, and then when the sun's out, nice, clean lagers.
What's your favourite hop?
Oh, you're asking all the hard questions, VB.
These are the easy ones, mate. They're the warm-ups.
Oh, no. Probably Mosaic, to be honest, or El Dorado. They kind of tickle my fancy. I suppose Mosaic's everyone's favourite in a way, but kind of know what you're going to get. It's pretty passion fruity, and that's why I love it. If it's used properly, you can almost get it to taste like Passiona, I reckon.
What about your favourite malt?
For a long time there, it was pale chocolate malt from Thomas Fawcett, but just because it was more subtle chocolate malt that didn't really give you those burnt toast characters, you know, just a bit more lighter on the chocolate characters and not astringent, you know, quite nice and easy on the palate. But mate, never failed with the nice high class floor malted Pilsner malt. If you can afford to lash out on it, it's a pretty nice malt to brew with. It's nice and clean, and yeah, just that wort clarity is beautiful.
What about your favourite yeast, and no pressure?
Aside from Leyland and their range, which is absolutely amazing. I think it's more. Yeah, I don't think I have a favourite yeast strain per se. Probably still trying to work through what I do prefer. If there is anything though, it's definitely saison yeast. It's that real, you know, those esters and those clove characters you can get, and just really high attenuators. But I think, you know, they ferment out so far, but when you drink them, they really don't taste that dry. You know, they've still got a bit of body and a bit of character about them. And to me, saisons, the yeast are the star of the show, which is probably why I'd pick any saison yeast generally. But, if I had to be specific, probably what we're using now, which is a blend between a Belgian and a French saison yeast.
Yeah,
Big
right.
fan of that.
What's your favourite brewery outside your own brewery?
For a while there, I was a big fan of Wild Beer Co. over in the UK. I think they're quite spontaneous, and you know they do a lot of different stuff and a lot of mixed experimental fermentation. And I suppose every time you kind of pick up a new one of those beers, it's something you haven't really tried before. So I guess that's kind of that creative part about you don't really get with all breweries today. You know, one that's solely focused on being wildly different is good. Yeah, probably have to say Wild Beer Co.
How was BrewCon this year?
I didn't go.
You didn't go?
No, otherwise I would have enjoyed some beers with you, mate. No, actually, we sent Miles over, so we gave him plenty of objectives, and he's definitely come back with lots of information, and also with a small hunger to buy new toys, which is not surprising. I think the first thing he said was, "I want a centrifuge. Do we have a spare 100k?" Sorry, mate. Maybe not this year. Love one.
How's the availability of brewing education in Australia?
It's definitely getting better. I don't think it's as prominent as other countries like the US and Europe. I think can definitely be improved, and I think you had some hand in getting it to the next level, but I suppose it kind of needs to be a bit more available. Definitely getting better, but I think the biggest thing is really just giving brewers experience and hands-on experience as well. And I think that's maybe where some of the education falls down a bit. It's almost like there's work placements required, or as a necessity of the course. People get in there and get their hands on some triclovers and some hoses, and work out how to use a pump. And when you undo a triclover, make sure there's no pressure in the hose. Little things like that you don't get taught at school. You kind of work out by burning yourself or getting covered from head to toe in caustic. So you kind of need that little bit of experience, and it always helps. So if anything, I think internships are also a good way to go, I think, for the industry. But yeah, I think it's getting better.
That's what we do with the TAFE course that we set up in Ultimo, is they will get work experience in James Squires, Young Henry's, Akasha. There's about 5 or 6.
Are they like 1 or 2 days a week, or is it a set?
It's a set
weeks?
roster that they roll through.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest need in the industry is right now?
The biggest need, probably support to those smaller breweries that are either starting or trying to get going, and just making sure they've got the resources there to tackle things like general inventory management and cash flow management, and help them understand what was the other one? Just any issues in the industry. For us, being regional, we have to deal with certain different things that you don't necessarily have to work with, and they're not challenges that you'd get being in a city. Being out in the country, kind of left with those regional issues of wastewater and also water in as well as water out. So I guess it's just making sure that people that are giving up their day job to start a brewery actually have the tools and resources in the industry to help them do it properly, as opposed to go for a couple of years and fold because they haven't got the experience or the education to really build a good account system and also make good beer as well. It's a lot. When I first started brewing, I think after 2 years, I was like, going to open my own brewery one day, and I'm gonna do all this and we're gonna do all that. And 5 years later down the track, I still wanted to do that, but now that we've started Beer Farm, I kind of look back and I go, I must have been absolutely crazy to think that I could do all this myself. You definitely need a lot of people with a lot of different skill sets to kind of bring it all together, and I think that's really important. It should never really be a one-man show. I think it's all about the team and the values that everyone else can bring to it.
What do you think the next brewing trend is?
Something hazy. I don't know. I feel like the New England IPA or the haze trend's kind of hanging around for a bit. I don't think much is really going to get up against that. I mean, brut IPAs, for a second there, everyone thought they were going to be the new thing, but sure enough, that was just a phase. I think good old classic lager, especially a nice easy drinking Australian one, will always have a place, but I think at the moment I can't see anything changing from the hazies.
What's your worst brewery infection, or have you had a brewery infection, and what did you do to solve the issue? Not to blow our own horn, we've done all right considering. Definitely try not dump anything. I mean, we always try and put something in barrel, or make lemonade out of lemons type scenario. Worst one was probably when we first opened. Actually, we weren't even open yet, I think. No, we were open. It was our first Easter open, and had a beer that packaged into keg, and once it got into keg, we started pouring it out the tap, and it was pretty clear diacetyl, and was pretty heartbreaking. But that's the only time that we've really turned around and gone, all right, we have to put this down the drain. There's no salvaging it. Aside from that, we've had the odd batch where we haven't been super stoked, or has had a micro issue, and we've generally kind of just put it into barrel with other cultures and let it do its thing. Doesn't always work, but at least we're giving the beer a chance. We had this year's pineapple, which re-fermented in can just as we started sending it out to distribution, and given it was re-fermented, we chose to withdraw the product, and that was a fair bit of beer, and it's never nice throwing away beer. So we literally put all of that into barrel, including the 300 cases we did of it. So that's actually aged really well in some white wine barrels. So it's worked out really well. You would have had that at the Blobfish Fest, actually.
Yeah,
the barrel aged
yeah.
pineapple. That was probably one of our favourites. So again, it's kind of turning that lemonade.
That's a great
Lemons
review.
into lemonade. So
What's your worst brewing mistake?
one of them would probably have to be putting 84 degrees hot water straight into the back of my head.
Ooh.
Was trying to do something whilst training people, which is even worse. I was trying to do something that deviated from our normal procedures, and wasn't paying attention. Turned the pump on. The hot water, lucky it was just hot water, was going through the racking arm, and of course the donkey was facing out the door and the door was open, so I turned the pump on and immediately just got a shot of 84 in the back of the head, and not one of my finest moments, but apart from that would probably be when I was in the Barossa Valley, shutting the mains water off at the hot liquor tank when we finished transfer through the heat exchanger, and I think we'd just had the seals changed, and because I'd shut mains off at the bottom of the hot liquor tank, it completely burst the heat exchanger for the second time in a week. So that was probably one that I wasn't too stoked with. Oh, and collapsing a tank, I've done that before as well.
Oh,
Yeah, that wasn't fun. It was only a 500 litre tank, but yeah, it's not a nice feeling hearing that stainless steel crack and pull away from its welds. It's not really the
hectic.
nicest sound.
What do you think everyone is doing right or wrong in the industry?
I think one of the biggest issues in the industry, and I know it's something we battle with all the time, and it's still trying to work out the best methods for, is dissolved oxygen. I think that's, especially for the smaller breweries, that's probably one of the biggest things that people can kind of, do the wrong way. I think speaking to a brewer the other day, and he was really down about his beers in the bright tank, and they smelled so great in the fermenter, and as soon as he got it into the bright tank, it just lost all aroma. It was just almost like it was oxidized, and went through the course of your purging, how long you're purging for, and it seemed like he was doing everything right, and kind of just went, well, what's your percent of paracetic acid in your cleaning? And he said it's close to 3%, and that's not only is that too much, it's all PAA is an oxidizing agent, so he's pretty much taking all the good things away from his beer. And I suppose it's just that dissolved oxygen and knowing what that is and how to kind of improve it. And then the other one would probably what people are doing right, I think, is nice, fragrant, fresh beers. It's just more on the pack side that I think people are struggling with things. Generally, anything you have on tap from around, especially around this region, everyone's beers is up there, great quality. But I think packaged products just a bit more of a challenge. So, if anything, that's probably where there needs to be a bit of extra education to brewers and small businesses starting up.
Sweet, mate. That's it. That's all the questions I got.
Cool.
Am I going the right way back?
Yeah, you are. You've done well.